This conference will now be recorded.
Well, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heber City Trails, Arts, and Parks Art Grant Process Workshop. Today, what we're going to do is introduce what has been posted on our website since we've opened up, in the brand new website that we have for this. We're also going to then walk through the guidelines for the granting process and what is the essence of how Heber City is organized for its distribution of its portion of the tourism, arts, and park tax increments. Um, we're also going to be opening up the application document and going through the application document. And with that, we'll add a couple more pieces of information that are embedded in this and maybe not as obvious. And then we're going to wrap up with some more questions and looking forward to any way in which we can help make the process more clear and go from there. So, supporting and promoting recreation, cultural, arts, and parks facilities and programs to benefit the Heber Valley community. So that is sort of a driving mission statement to this process. So it is a grant process that has an open and a closed period, which we'll look at in a minute with our timeline. But we wanted to start off with just explaining that there are two sort of distinct types of projects. One is program-based activities or specific art creation projects that are more or less exemplary of creation, presentation, cultural expression. And with that, there are then additional the opportunity to apply for what we call capital projects, which are employing the words maybe brick and mortar, where we're actually building infrastructure for arts and culture activities. So those are the two distinct types of projects in a broad sense. So the requirement for the applications are as follows. The applicants must have a 501c3 non-for-profit tax status, either with the United States government, and or the Utah state tax exempt status. So it is a combination, or it could be one or the other. There's no greater candidacy by having both or one over the other. And then if the applicant, say an individual artist, does not actually have such status, then they're encouraged to partner with an organization that does, who would actually officially be the applicant in that case. The location for the project must take place within Heber City limits. Projects must be completed within a period of 2 years from the date of which the funding or funding agreement, as we would have it, is signed. And the money, of course, is available as part of that execution of that agreement. Capital projects, however, have been given an extra year, if you will, to be able to be completed within 3 years of that date of funding. There is a match requirement for the dollars that are being requested. There's at least a 25% match of certified funds, not promissory notes, not a wish and a hope. And with that, further, you'll see we try to declare what are projects that are eligible. And with that, we're not looking for essentially matching funds to be donated hours, as it were. It needs to be actually cash in hand, as it were. Some projects have provided a list of materials that they've already purchased that are part of the project. That could be considered, if they're specific to the project, that could be considered part of the funding requirement. Grant awards are to be distributed, or will be distributed in 2 payments, 50% at the time of the award, and 50% at the completion and the final reporting. Commensurate with that, however, is that granted funds are distributed in the form of reimbursement. So there's no front loading of money. We don't basically hand you a bag of cash and say good luck. it is in sense like it should be for good administration of public dollars, a reimbursement of documented reimbursement of expenses, uh, and they're qualified, as it were. And then finally, throughout the program, we're looking for projects that are funded to announce and display that funding was provided by Heber City TAP tax program. Um, so perhaps we would pause here and ask if anybody attending has any questions about what you've just either read or seen or heard. Okay, hearing none, let's proceed. Um, so our funds may be used for expenditures directly related to, and let's go down a little bit. Essentially, we're looking for it to be collections or exhibits, acquisitions, and a public display of that items or as collected or exhibited. Um, they can be for contracted services related to the event or to the exhibition or to the piece of work or to the construction. And they're essentially through the aid and direction of a second individual company. Salaries that have a direct relationship to the project, i.e. an instructor's time in preparing or teaching in our program, those are allowed to be essentially funded through the grant. The general administration overhead costs, a portion of the rent, a portion of a long-term acquisition of item that is not directly related to the project. However, it needs to be more clearly defined. But as we consider general admin and overhead costs, can only be a maximum of 10% of the requested amount. So we're in that case, what we're looking for there is majority of the funding going directly to the actual expression of art, as it were, in culture. Marketing and advertising. So basically, we're looking for promotion of the funded project to the extent that the general public know that it's happening. So those are qualified expenses as well. And then, programs and performance and production, the staging of it were, the scenery or costumes or the actual body of the media for the visual arts or the genesis of a film being made, or to the extent that you can broadly define what are the expressions of art. We're looking for the direct costs of that, obviously, are part of what the expenses would cover. And then development of the one of the kind or one-time physical item or one-time event is a good definition of what is a project. And then finally, travel and housing for the organization staff for specific projects and programs for travel and housing of performers. Of course, by that, it would merit that they would be in the minority of the expense, but we wouldn't know that sometimes. Sometimes we are traveling in a guest speaker, then perhaps besides the fee, the second most expensive thing will be the travel and housing. Let's go down a little bit. So this is not an exhaustive list, but is offered as being funds may not be used for accumulated deficit or debt, for essentially things that are funded and part of public school or school programs that are already receiving their funding through the public school program, or hiring of a temporary or permanent staff, understanding that again, we've encouraged that salaries can be part of it. So a portion of salaries can be qualified, but not full-time. Lobbying or political action expenses are not qualified. Scholarships, purchases, awards, or cash prizes as part of the activity. Things that are being given to others. Business operations of magazines or newspapers. Obviously, anything that is essentially a fringe to the actual magazine or newspaper that's doing the work, but not to the business operations of those entities. Activities intended primarily for fundraising, what we consider to be a rehabilitative or therapeutic programs that are clearly opportunities for, let's say, not arts and cultural specific fireworks, rodeos, and activities primarily religious in purpose. And then finally, funds can't be used for essentially banking and going to the bank and saving money. So let's go down to the qualifications. We're going to repeat these when we get to a slide we've created to share with you today, that everything we do share that's additional to what's online, we will actually post online once it becomes public, which is very soon. Quality of proposed project. I think that's going to be a really important evaluation criteria, and a documentation of that is looking at the construct of it through the lens of a budget and, of course, a timeline. We're looking for the applicant to prove to us that there is a demonstrated community need for the project to happen, that it is clearly meeting a pent-up demand or need related to arts and culture, and how that will affect essentially what is in the community expressed and demonstrated as it's being needed. And of course, with that, the benefits of the community. And then also will be evaluation on the organization's history, the ability to actually implement the project, and financial considerations related to that. So let's go a little deeper into that. When we talk about quality of project, we're looking for, what is the clarity of the goals and the design of the project. We're looking for not necessarily exhaustive, but we're looking for what has been clearly representative of good thinking of what things cost, and with that also how time will be used to be able to make it happen. And then here's probably an important aspect to it that we'd like to understand best. When you say we want to measure something, we're going to measure quality and measure essentially meeting expectations or completeness. We'd like you to express to us what is the qualitative and quantitative measurements that you wish to use for that. And that helps us understand that we're not using a different ruler than you. We want you to help us understand measurement. How do you measure success, as it were, in the quality of this? Also, then, in terms of the demonstrated community need, you can read what's there. As I said earlier, specifically, what are the Heber citizens in the project needing, and how will that be addressed? With that, then we move to the benefits. What are the number of residents by age or user group, or they're served by the project, or does this project have a potential becoming influential to the community experience in years to come? So it's not just a temporal thing. It could be something that is going to be more long lasting than just the actual event. Perhaps a series of events might be an example of that. And with that, tangible ways the project will benefit the city. And then diving deeper into the organizational history, we're looking for the ability to carry out the project based on the factors, including, the budget, resources involved, and then the qualifications of the people of the project's personnel. Perhaps you'll be submitting some resumes, or you'll be submitting some bullet points of those individuals that are going to be taking over the project or clearly making the project happen. And to what extent can you communicate that those people are qualified to do that work? And then finally, staff and human resources required to complete, and with that also the history of past funding. So before I open the floor to questions about that, we're going to tab over for a moment. Let's go to the PowerPoint slides that I had presented. So wanted to just quickly address timeline for a moment. We are clearly open and have been for now just about 20 something days. Today is obviously our workshop. This is recorded and will go on availability for it to be downloaded. So if you know others that couldn't be here tonight, it would be great for you to point them in that direction. We will actually be posting that recording as well, so that people who couldn't be there know where to get it. We are closing on March 11th. We think that there's a sufficient time frame there to be able to get all the applications in. We encourage people to submit early. We are not waiting until the 11th to look at, or the 12th to be looking at them. So there'll be a sort of a quality assurance process of us checking on the applications as soon as we get them. So if you have the opportunity, it would really be appreciated for you to submit early. Then you see on the 12th, your volunteer Arts Advisory Committee, together with city staff, will go through the process of reviewing, and I'll share with you the beginning of that in a second here. And then we've chosen April 24th to be the period that we are now through everything. It's safe to assume that between the 12th of March and April 24th, if you have submitted, there'll probably be some questions that we'll be directing to you. So you'll be filling in all the required information on how we contact you, so we can do that. And if you submit, by the 11th, then we will certainly by the 24th have done a complete, thorough review of your application. Then finally, as we get into May, at the very beginning of May, we'll be passing it on to the City Council for review. And here's a bit of new information that was not really as clear as it is today, is that the year one award, which is the year that we're now talking about from 2023 TAP funds, will be awarded in the month of May. That award was previously thought to be later in the summer, and the answer is no. We're going to be awarding that as soon as we can in May. And with that, applicants will be notified of funding decisions, be it thumbs up or thumbs down. Those that are in thumbs up will be asked to then perhaps submit some further documentation and then move forward to a funding agreement document. And then the funds will be available as we've discussed previously, in terms of 50% reimbursements on the front end and then 50% reimbursements after completion. Then in June, the City Council will be reviewing its 2025 city budget. And in doing that, they're going to be looking at the allocation of what is projected for the year two, the year we're in now, of collecting TAP funds that therefore would be awarded in May of 2025. So I wanted to clarify sort of the revolving or the evolution of how this will turn itself into an annual cycle. So with that, let me pause for a moment. Are there any questions about the timeline? Oh, by the way, we do have the chat open. If you'd like to type a question into chat, we'll make sure we get to it before we close the meeting and go from there. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. We wanted to share with you, similar to public sector requests for proposals process, that the criteria is evident in what we just discussed here. We have broken out budget from timeline from the previous discussion of or representation of the evaluation criteria. And with that, we've created a score of 0 and 1 through 5. As you may imagine, 0 is non-responsive, and 5 is a superlative response to the quality or to the demonstrated need or the benefits and or to the history. So this is essentially sharing with you how the scorecard will work. The question is asked, everything in yellow, what is going on there? And the answer is that the committee is now still meeting on this and moving it forward to propose back to the City Council how we value, as a volunteer group, how we value the weighting of this. That would be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but there are a total of 5 here. And with that, they all need to sum to 100%. So we'll be putting in values that equal total of 5, 100%. And then our scores will be represented in the scoring column. And that'll yield essentially a max number of 500 for picture perfect. This is just a monetary, or not monetary, sorry, it's a numeric way for us to be able to then bring value to what will also be submitted, which is a narrative for each of these in terms of the review and comments from the Citizen Advisory Board, who will be reviewing this together with staff. So I wanted to share that with you. This will be something that is finished, will come forward even more, but it's a very transparent way of showing you how we're looking to these criteria as measurable, and to the extent that we would understand how to get to a numeric finding. You may ask, does a numeric finding take precedence over, say, one project over another? And the answer is generally yes. There needs to be a precedence that says that the numbers are equal to the recommendation. Otherwise, the system is thrown into question of why does it matter if it doesn't have value. But commensurately, the narrative of the committee will be in findings of this numeric. There'll be a new sort of a narrative to each of our findings for each of the projects as we're moving forward. With that, do we have any questions about this so far? I'm sure there'll be questions after we put values in the weighting, and we will be publishing that so you know where our minds are at, as it were. Okay, let's go back, and now I think we're ready to actually open up the application. Okay, first thing is to note the button that says sign in and save progress. Perhaps, Anthony, you're here from the city. Could you just explain what happens when I press that button and why it's important?
When you, excuse me. Yeah, so if, apologize.
Wow. No worries.
If you wanted to start filling out the application, which isn't too intensive, and just wanted to start it and come back to it, the only way you're going to be able to save that information is if you sign in, and it's signing into our website, creating an account with our website. Basically, your name, email address, and a password that it'll create for you. And then you can come back and save your application, so you don't have to re-enter anything as you want to. It's pretty, and you would sign in up at the top of the website where it says website sign in. Once you've created your account, you would come back and sign in, and it would take you back to where you left off with your application.
And most likely, and more independently, actually, we'll close this application at close of business, which is to be at 6 p.m. On Monday, March 11th. So yeah. That said, I think we can move on. So you can see we're basically taking all of the eligibility requirements and bringing them in here in terms of your 501c3 status. And you have to declare that, you know, in the check boxes where you are with that. Again, if it's not happening in Cedar City, in Heber city limits, be careful because you're wasting your time. If we're talking about as moving ahead, obviously you have your various names of the organization. Let's go down a little further. We're looking for a mission statement or a description of the organization itself. And part of that, the criteria. Let's go back up a little bit to the contact boxes right there. So we're wanting to make sure that we have at least two applicant contacts. One is called the grant applicant, the person that you designate to be the person to field all questions, and then also an alternate in case we're simply having a hard time getting a hold of the grant applicant. We want to have resources to be able to move ahead in a timely way because there's a time clock obviously running on a lot of this. Let's go down into project. Most of this is self-evident. Now let's talk about characters and max characters. So really important for you to work within the limit. If you find yourself in a place, as many of us who've done with this, it would be advised that you were to take a separate document, say a Word document or any other WordPress document, and or just draft in that and get it the way you like it, and then cut and paste it into here is a recommendation. It can be as brief or as extensive as you wish. We prefer to have all of what you're looking for here rather than something that says see attached document. That will not be accepted. So we're looking for you to submit using these text boxes to submit your application. It goes all through the same basic criteria we've already reviewed. let's keep going down. Again, the qualitative and quantitative measures that you'll be using to evaluate your projects. We want to understand how, what is your measurement of success in terms of numbers or in terms of qualities, and how you seek to essentially measure in your own evaluation of how you did. It would be we're a partner with you, so we want to understand in your language, in your terms, in your thinking, how do you consider success to be defined, and what is that ruler or that measurement? Let's go through the attachments. So these are required. We need a determination letter from the authority having jurisdiction, which is either the state of Utah or the U.S. federal government. We're looking for financial statements, recent, meaning certainly what you consider recent to be within the last quarter, probably for the definition of that, certainly within the last year. We're looking for a listing of your boards of directors. We are not looking for personal information, so be careful not to make that. These documents will be made public, so be aware of that in giving and submitting, phone numbers and emails. Also with that, the supporting documentation that you might consider, letters of authentication. You might want to submit some letters of support from leaders in the community or folks that you consider to be really relevant to the project. And that would be a pretty useful submission. And any other documents that you consider to be relevant. And you'll see here we have not submitted a page limit. So we'd ask you to be mindful of our time as volunteers, but we want to, in this first year, we want to be very large in the window to submit for this. And then the summarized budget and the timeline are distinctly different. I'd like you to consider, in the case of both of them, a single full page would be the minimum. We are not looking for a 65-page budget and a 75-page Gantt chart timeline, but we are looking for something that shows clear evidence that you've got a lot of thinking behind your project. And then with that, we ask you to essentially sign the document electronically and prove that you're not a robot. And we go from there. So with that, I think we've kind of come to the end of what we had to show today. I would ask those that are attending if you have any specific questions. Okay. Anything else? You don't have to put your hand in the air. You can just talk.
Just spread the word. Let everybody share it out there.
Yes. So we are, I think, in this first year, we are, I think, purposely looking to the community to respond to this great opportunity to have art and culture grow in our community, and for us as the representatives of the municipal city government to applaud the action moving forward to take this really wonderful sales tax increment resource. And the best way to thank the public for it is to use it. So we encourage for those of you that see something here that has a value, we really would love to know directly how this can be made easier, or if there are any questions about it. With that, we want to share our website access for you to send an email. Anthony, if you could show us where we're going to find that, that'd be great. The link for a question.
That has not been, it's just going to be, let me switch over. Hold on. If you go to the Arts Advisory Committee page, all questions, we'll put a link up over on the side up here on the top. But we'll just send any questions to arts@heberut.gov.
There it is, arts@heberut.gov. And while we're here, great opportunity to say thank you to our volunteer arts committee, as you see here. We're very excited about being able to make this process successful and transparent. So we always are welcome to any feedback. And again, the best way to appreciate what's happening is to use the money. So with that, I think we're finished. Any other wrap-up questions that we might have or comments?
I think we're good.
With that, I think we're good. Thanks everybody for joining us, and let us know how we can help more, and please pass the word. We are ready.
And we will, once we get the video finalized, there'll be a link on the page to be able to watch it. It'll be on the Heber City YouTube channel, so we'll put a link there for people to watch it.
And the two slides you saw come up are part of the presentation that the Arts Committee is making to the City Council this coming Tuesday. So they'll become a matter of public record. And as the Arts Committee furthers the scorecard, we'll be putting the scorecard on our application document as well. So we're building a good, hopefully, set of tools. Very good. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate the chat. Very good, everybody. Have a good night. And again, thank you for joining us.